And I'm Dita Brummer.
We're a long way from home at the moment.
And about 90 years back in time.
Actually, I think you look really good like that.
Yeah, I don't know about you though, Teen. I think that's the sort of stuff my grandmother used to wear when she went for a swim.
Did you know that the first person to swim from a Sydney beach in daylight in 1902 broke the law, but helped start the spread of daytime bathing and the formation of surf lifesaving?
So that's why we're here today, to take a look at the beach, the water, and ourselves. Now come and join us.
Hey, what's all this?
I'm an acting lifesaver for the day. Now here, Teen, put this on. You know, the sun's a real worry if you don't protect yourself against it.
Hey, Dee, did they have cute lifesavers like you in those days?
Yeah, they sure did. It was a bit different in style, but they were doing the same thing, keeping an eye out on crazy people who wanted to go splashing around in the ocean. There's one thing that hasn't changed, and that's the ocean itself. It's still just as dangerous.
Well, tell me all about it. You seem to be the expert.
All right, well, there's all kinds of water we can get into.
Like hot water.
Teen, I'm trying to be serious.
Sorry.
It's not only the ocean. I mean, people jump into just about anything if they want to cool off and have a swim. Rivers, sometimes running too fast for safety, and all kinds of hidden dangers. Lakes and dams, they look inviting, but you never know what's under the surface or how deep they are. And lagoons and backwaters, they've got trees and rocks, rubbish, and often high banks so steep and crumbly you can't climb out. It's easy enough to get into trouble wherever there's water. Aussies like to get to the beach, even if they live out in the bush. Tourists and visitors as well. But sometimes they don't understand the dangers. But for us, it's very much a part of our way of life.
Dina, I've been living in Australia for many years, but there's still a lot of things I don't know. You know, about the weather and the tides, the undercurrents, the stingers, the waves, all sorts of things that might be waiting for us.
Oh, well, it's about time you did then, isn't it?
Listen, just because you're wearing this shirt, it does not make you an expert. I'm just as cluey as you are.
All right, well then tell me where the tide's at.
It's low tide.
Yeah, how'd you know that?
Well, I looked at the high tide mark and the sand is dry, which means it's a low tide.
Oh, yeah?
My dad does a lot of fishing and he taught me all about high and low tides. Another way you can tell is if you look at the rocks and look for seaweed. If you can see the weed, then it means that the tide is out.
Oh, that's not bad.
Look, why did you ask anyway?
Well, I mean, the tide does have an effect on what happens to the water. Usually when the tide's out, the sandbars are exposed and dumpers rolling. You know, they're real backbreakers too.
All right, well, where do we start? What's our first lesson?
Well, how about with the flags?
I'm often asked why we put the flags so close together when there's so much more space on the beach. In the first place, the flags show you the safest place on the beach to swim. Secondly, it means lifesavers or lifeguards are on patrol. If you keep inside the flags, you shouldn't get into too much trouble. We suss out where the rips are, if there's any dangerous undercurrent, and we keep a sharp lookout for any changes that may occur. It also means that with a small team of lifesavers, we can concentrate on one main area. Now, if you run off up the beach and start swimming anywhere you fancy, you won't know if there are any dangers and we won't be able to see if you get into any trouble. Flags aren't the only thing you've got to take notice of. There's these warning signs we put up from time to time. They really speak for themselves. Okay, see how many you can identify first time. Swimming allowed. Diving prohibited. Surfboard riding prohibited. Beware of stingers. Water skiing allowed. Beware strong undercurrent or rip. Beware of sharks. Probably the most important warning is beware of rips. Rips are strong, narrow undercurrents. They are formed by water coming into the beach in either waves or swells. They are then forced to find their way back out to sea. You can recognise a rip by looking for a darker patch of water either side of waves. If you find yourself in one, don't panic. To attract attention, just raise an arm and give a shout. Don't try to swim back to the beach against the current. You won't make it, and you'll exhaust yourself. Tiredness and coldness can be your worst enemies. When you realise you're further off the shore than you should be, start to swim across the rip, roughly parallel to the beach. If you're a strong swimmer, you can probably make a sharper angle, say at 45 degrees across. After 40 or 50 metres, you'll almost certainly be out of the current. Now you can make your way back to the beach without any hassle. The three main items used in surf rescue work are the rescue tube, which acts like a small lifebelt, the rescue board, which enables us to float someone into the beach, and the IRB, the inflatable rescue boat. Once you feel confident and at home in the water, the chances are you'll never give us any trouble. Mind you, some people never learn.
I may not be a very strong swimmer, but at least I can enjoy a relaxing float in one of these. In the meantime, I'll leave you to detail.
Waves, of course, are affected by the wind. I mean, the wind sort of creates them in the first place. For instance, a strong onshore wind can build up huge waves, even too big for the best surfers. Whereas an offshore wind, that's one blown from the land, often leaves just a swell without any spilling or plunging waves. That's all very nice for a quiet drift, but be careful. Well, that's goodbye to teeing, unless the wind changes. Ah, never mind. I hear New Zealand's a nice place.
Well, there she is out there. She's going out past the point.
Quick, baby, go and grab her, mate.
Did you know? More people have been saved by lifesavers in Australia than the total death toll of Australians in both world wars.
Now, if you don't want to tackle the waves, a lot of beaches have got ocean pools, just like this one, where it's safer and quieter to swim. But some of them are very dangerous in rough weather, especially at high tide. So just pick your time carefully. And remember, they're not like pools in your local neighbourhood or backyard. And never swim alone. Hey! No diving. You know, ocean pools are never very deep, and often some have got very rocky bottoms. You know, some of them don't even have warning signs. Told you to check which way the wind was blowing, team.
Yeah, well, thanks a million. It's a good thing we've got proper lifesavers in Australia, because I wouldn't want to depend on you.
If you ever have to try to save someone in difficulties, there's a number of things to remember. First, drowning is simply suffocating, not enough air getting into the lungs. If you can stay afloat and keep breathing, you won't drown. But even if someone has stopped breathing, it's possible to bring them back to life, so to speak. We can't teach you everything in a few minutes, but there are plenty of instruction manuals, and of course, the SLSA runs classes like this one. You'd always be very welcome. There's a lot to learn, but one day it may save the life of a friend, and you yourself may be grateful that one of your friends knew what to do in a crisis. Think about it. Remember, you learn resuscitation for your friends and family, not for yourself.
If you live away from the sea, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy all kinds of water sport, but you still have to be just as careful. Some places aren't really suitable. I mean, you should never jump straight into a river or pool without checking how deep it is. Watch out for obstructions, trees, branches, underwater snags that could trap you, and always make sure that there's someone with you, just in case you get into difficulties. The same thing applies to boating, especially in something flimsy like a canoe or a kayak. That can easily tip you out. And always wear a life jacket.
Tina, I didn't see you wearing your life jacket just now on your maiden voyage.
Very funny. I'll tell you what though, there are blue bottles out there and they're very nasty. I got stung by one once and boy do they sting.
So what's the best treatment for one?
Well, why don't you ask a real lifesaver?
There are all kinds of stingers around Australia. Blue bottles or Portuguese men of war have a little blue air sac that keeps them on the surface, and one very long tentacle with lots of short ones under the air sac. The box jellyfish is even nastier and is found mostly around the northern parts of Australia. And one fella you want to steer clear of, the blue-ringed octopus. You'll find it in rock crevices or under rocks in the shallows. Give it a wide berth if you do. Its bite can be fatal, so don't stick your hands under rock crevices. The really serious bites need medical attention, and quickly too. But there are ways you can treat a blue bottle sting. First, wash it with fresh water. Then get some ice and hold it against the sting for 15 minutes or so. If you're unlucky enough to be stung by a box jellyfish, use vinegar rather than water. If there's a lifesaver around, best to go to him. That's part of our responsibility, providing first aid for stings and cuts and bruises, or any injuries you might suffer on the beach. So don't forget, we're here if you need us.
So where are you supposed to get an ice pack from in the middle of the beach?
Oh, an esky maybe. You could even use an ice cold can of drink, even an ice block, because anything's better than nothing. You know, you've got to look after yourself while you're out there on your own.
Yeah, I guess so.
But it doesn't mean that it's smart to sneak off by yourself and not tell anyone where you're going.
No, but it's much more fun going with someone else anyway. Or at least it could be.
You know, that's probably one of the best safety lessons of all. Not to go off on your own. Okay, now let's do a quick recap on the points that we've seen today.
Make sure you're aware of what the beach and the sea and anywhere you may be swimming is all about.
Only swim in the areas marked safe and take note of any warning signs or notices.
Have some idea about the wind, the tide and the weather, the depth of the water and so on. Don't exhaust yourself and don't get too cold. If you start to feel shivery, then get out of the water.
Remember, the sun's at its strongest between 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, so make sure you keep covered.
Always go with a friend, or if you really are on your own, stay close to other people.
Keep yourself fit and alert, because anything that affects your state of mind is a real no-no in the water. It just doesn't mix. So if you understand all that, you could end up like these guys. Now remember, they started off just like you. There are thousands of them now all around Australia, looking after the millions of us who go to the beach every year.
You can start really young, and you'll learn all the things that we've been talking about and how to help others who get into difficulties. If your school runs life-saving classes, then go for it. If they don't, well then there are plenty of other ways to get into the action. There are life-saving organisations all over Australia anxious to pass on their expert knowledge and experience, so check them out.
Well, there we have it. My day as a lifesaver. Well, now back to rehearsals, huh?
Well, I'm sure they'll be a lot safer. Listen, it's been great having you with us today. Now, you won't go away and forget about everything you've seen and heard today, will you?
So it's goodbye from me, Dita Brummer.
And Tina Thompson. Take care of yourselves, won't you?
See you later.
Lifesaver.